kind of wanted to do a Steve Ditko-esque Spider-Man, and then there was this one pinup that Jack Kirby had colored. So it was a John Romita poster, and for whatever
Yeah.
reason, Jack was like, "I'm going to slap some color on that."
Welcome back to Direct Edition, a podcast about nothing and everything. I'm your host, Dave, and here we are, the 75th episode of Direct Edition, and I've got a very special treat for you. Today, I'm bringing you an interview with legendary comic creator, artist, writer, and co-founder of Image Comics, Erik Larsen. He's also the creator of Savage Dragon, which he published through Image Comics, but also created long before, and is on pace to be the longest running cartoonist on a single book as a writer and an artist, probably in about a year and a half. But I'm here talking to him today about his return to the Spider-Man character in a couple of different forms, including this issue of Venom Black, White, and Blood, and the upcoming Spider-Man Noir series. I had a fantastic chat. It's the third time that I've interviewed Erik, and at this point, it's just, I love talking to him about the process of comics, the history of comics, collecting, writing, artistry, all of it. He is a comics creator at heart, and that's all he ever really wants to do, which he's said to me before. This chat, we go through, going back to Marvel and working with an artist because he's the writer on the Spider-Man Noir series. We talk about Savage Dragon. We talk about artwork. Kind of runs the gamut of everything. It's a nice way to pick up with him after the last chat, which was May of 2024, I believe. Anyway, Spider-Man Noir #1 is in stores October 1st. He also has a signing in San Francisco at Mission Comics. But without further ado, here's my chat with Erik Larsen. Welcome back, everybody. My guest today is no stranger to recording with me, and also no stranger to swinging back into the character after 25 years of not being around Spider-Man. He's also the creator of the epic Savage Dragon, an Image co-founder, an all-around good guy, and a big comics fan like myself, Erik Larsen. So we'll talk about this first, and then we'll get into Noir.
All right.
One of the things that I really appreciated is this, for anybody, we won't go through too much spoilers, but it opens up. The name of the story is Convergence, and you've got mirroring panels here. I actually wanted to ask you, because you're the only person credited on the art, so the coloring on this is such an amazing choice. And the thing I want to touch upon first is his suit is like a mosaic of different colors of red. Had you ever done that with anything
No,
in the past?
not really. No. This was a situation where I kind of figure when I've got these weird little one-offs,
Mm-hmm.
like I did a cover of Spider-Man '94 or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I don't even know what year it was, but when I'm doing just like, hey, it's a short story, I can kind of be like, let me just try out something different. I haven't done a story where I drew this before. Let me try this approach.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wanted to do a Steve Ditko-esque Spider-Man, and then there was this one pinup that Jack Kirby had colored. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a John Romita poster, and for whatever
Yeah.
reason, Jack was like, "I'm going to slap some color on that." I was really taken with. He did this kind of weird mosaic look to it,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I want to try that out. It makes no sense for Spider-Man to
No.
have that kind of. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense at all for those to be separate hunks. It's
Yeah.
really should just be lines on a costume, but I don't know, 10 pages.
Yeah. And
You
plus
know,
it looks different, like, which
yeah,
gives it a
that's what
different
I liked
feel.
about it is that it looks different. And then with Spider-Man himself, I was doing the flat black on him, so there was no highlights, no blue highlights. Um, and then I was trying kind of to do Ditko, but I can't do it very well. And so my Peter Parker was supposed to remind you of Steve Ditko, and my
I I
Mary
think you hit
Jane
the
was my
mark on that.
attempt at John Romita, and both I didn't especially nail, but it's the ballpark.
I'll go with you being modest because to me that is Ditko's Spider-Man right there in that panel. I mean, it's hard to
Oh,
deny that with the
thanks.
Widow's Peak.
Yeah,
What was the last time you colored Spider-Man? Obviously, the last time you wrote Spider-Man and drew Spider-Man was 25 years ago. Were you coloring it back then
no,
in that
no,
volume two? No,
no. This is the first, and was it the first and
only.
only time I colored the Spider-Man '94 cover,
Hmm.
which is coming up. I
Yeah,
want to say
yeah, it's a really nice cover.
I colored a Hulk cover, which is like, okay, that's unrelated, but I did do that.
Well,
Um,
I think giving. Oh, sorry.
so yeah, no, like every now and then I just get the itch to try out some different things, and this was a case where we were doing the black, white, and red theme,
Hmm.
so it was going to have a limited palette anyway.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, okay, well, let me just go to town on that and see what that looks like.
Going back to the kind of like individual, almost scale kind of coloring, the thing that I could, or last time a character I could see remember is, when John Cassidy was doing Captain America, like that suit that he did was kind of like individual panels, and I think it very recently you posted on Facebook talking about, like the stuff on TV having hyper detail, but I also think that like this is also a way to do that where it's not annoying. It looks really different, and when I see something done different in a new book, it gets me to I enjoy it more. It's
Okay,
just
well,
kind of a
cool.
plain old fact. And I
Yeah,
um
I'm looking forward to seeing it. So I haven't seen it yet in print. So I've seen some JPEGs and gone back and forth with
yeah,
Marvel on the lettering and stuff. So it's like, okay, I know I had to rewrite some dialogue here and there. So I'm not sure exactly what ended up in print, but looking
I
forward
um
to
I enjoyed the dialogue too because, whether you did it pointedly, you kind of took a really pointed shot at journalism in, kind of journalism now, but also the way that people act on the way we talk about things on the internet without fact checking them. There's this kind of monologue about, Eddie, the way that Eddie Brock ended up as Venom and why he got fired, is Peter's kind of pointing out, like, you printed stuff without really knowing the story.
yeah,
And I felt that was
yeah.
maybe we don't get that anymore from comics, but you keep it old school like that.
Yeah, I tried to have some fun with it. Mostly with Venom, I always kind of thought that his uh, motivation needed a little kick in the ass,
Hmm.
and so that was kind of my what I wanted to do here was just like, all right, well, this may be a little more uh, legitimate reason for him to be pissed off at Spider-Man as opposed to the
Whatever.
circuitous, you got fired because you did this, and you
Yeah.
know gee, Spider-Man, if only you hadn't stopped this killer who is killing people, then they would still think that this guy who is a confessor was. It's like, come on, that's weak, man. That's weak, especially for a guy who keeps going, I want to protect innocence. It's like, well, innocents were dying because of this sin eater dude, so I stopped that guy. You should be doing backflips over me doing that.
Yeah, yeah. All while this is happening and he's putting
Yeah.
more innocent lives in danger. And people should kind of take a look at some of the art in there because there is some Easter eggs in there, including a Marvel Comics Group logo hidden in very plain sight. I
Yeah.
thought that was
Yeah, well,
pretty
that's
cool.
what one of those was. There was a real logo on that real place, and it was like Marvel's like, you can't use that. I was like, all right, well, what can I use? It's like, oh, here's a thing.
And the other thing I was very unexpected. I wanted to ask you about. It's a prequel. It leads into Amazing
It
Spider-Man
it
346.
kind of does, and when you take into account, wait a minute, Mary Jane's haircut is not anything like it's like, okay, it doesn't quite it doesn't quite work, and the
Sure.
dialogue doesn't quite make it. It's sort of, but George Lucas did that with that whole episode one thing, so it's like it's
Exactly.
cool. It's cool to not have the everything fit and dovetail perfectly together. Because
And
I wanted to do a John Romita MJ, and that doesn't work with the
with
haircut that she had at the time.
yeah, well, it's funny because I think about when Todd takes over and then you take over, hair. There was so much hair, but I think that's just kind of left over from what was going on in the late '80s anyway.
Yeah,
You know?
it's just that's the way of the world, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody had their padded shoulders and their big hair, and
In their business suits, like the women wore
it
the
just,
yeah the suits with the oh, I think about
yeah,
like a movie like Working Girl. It's kind of like the prototype of what how women dressed in that time.
yeah. And
Um,
it's like none of that stuff. None of it really ages well. I kind of almost think you're better off just going with something more classic in a way, because then
yeah,
you're not going to be sitting there going, "Geez, Lois, what a weird pair of pants you got going on in that Superman movie. What's that all about?" You know, 10 years down the road, when everything is shifted and changed, and
yeah.
people are you know wearing
It
something else.
it almost feels like the Ditko era of not just comics but also like where he was drawing from. That's the kind of fashion that it comes back around a lot. You know, that
Yeah,
very Americana 50s, early 60s
yeah. I
innocent.
mean,
Yeah.
but there was still that time I remember in the '70s where Peter Parker really looked different than any human being you would see walking around outside. He just was like, what is with that haircut? And how come he still has it? Nobody looks like this. But they stuck with their guns, and years later you can look back at those and you don't think, wow, these look super dated,
Right.
because he's that's that haircut's kind of come around again. So
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Everything's, I mean, everything's
yeah, I
cyclical
know.
anyway. It
They're still wearing bell
mutates.
bottoms.
Yeah. Well, like the greaser haircut, right? Like that came back
Yeah,
around. It's now the hipster, like and the shaved sides of the head and slick
yeah, I
back
know. So
hair.
I see people with mullets now, and I'm like, good God, man, have you learned nothing?
Yeah, I'll never understand how anybody thought the mullet was good enough to exist
how,
and then
how,
good enough
how
to
is
come
it?
back.
Yeah, like, what are you doing?
Um, and I did want to ask about that story. How long had that been sitting with you before we're seeing it in print? Like, did you write that a while ago?
I wrote
The
that and wrote and drew it, I think, 3 years ago. It was,
okay,
uh, it's been sitting around for a little while. The dialogue got tweaked slightly just because there was some uh, S&P notes. And
yeah,
I guess they're really much more hands-on with at least classic Spider-Man
then a lot of
than
other
some of the other
things.
characters. So I don't seem to be getting the same sort of thing on Spider-Man Noir. They seem to be just kind of going, all right, let's fire that one through. So
All right.
we'll,
Well,
we'll
hey,
see.
yeah,
We'll see how that goes.
yeah. So jumping into that Spider-Man Noir, which comes out October 1st, I believe that's the Wednesday it comes out.
Mhm.
And so from what I have read and heard, what you've said about it, this kind of came out of nowhere. You were just asked about it.
Yeah, that's how a lot
Oh,
of stuff comes about. Is
yeah.
like, I mean, the old saying, if you don't ask, the answer's already no.
Mm-hmm.
this is, a situation where the editor was kind of thinking outside of the box and going, well, here's what I want. I want this kind of old school, because there's, if you watch all those old film noir movies,
Mm-hmm.
they're really dialogue driven, and there's a lot of,
Yeah.
snappy back and forth and stuff like that, which is kind of my forte. So I think he was kind of looking at what I do and going, this would work over here. Whereas, the previous takes on it were kind of, this guy's doing a horror take, and this guy's doing
Mm-hmm.
it kind of Spider-Man as Indiana Jones, and there's been kind of somewhere like, this doesn't really feel film noir at all. Um, but we'll see, because a lot of it does kind of come down to, well, how did the artist pull off film noir look too? It's like, oh yeah, that's right. You got to have all these pieces working together, and I mean,
Yeah.
that's a whole different kind of thing. It is weird after kind of doing this all by myself for a while to get back into a place where I'm working with other people, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh geez, this is being interpreted in a way that you don't see in your head. you,
Right.
you just come in and going, if I was drawing this is the direction I would take. And then there's places where you're just going, oh my god, this guy did something that's way better than anything I could possibly come up with. This, he hit it out of the park with this one. And there are other times where you go, yeah, he didn't quite pull that one off, buddy. you know, um, I'm doing it mostly what we call Marvel style, where
Mm-hmm.
I would write a fairly detailed plot with some dialogue in it, and then the artist will draw it, and then I will come in there and do my dialogue pass after the art is done. I find that the page has a lot better balance in terms of the space that the balloons are taking up versus the art and stuff like that. If done correctly, it's not, you're not going to have a situation where there's all this space for a balloon and there's nothing in there, or
Mm-hmm.
it looks like somebody's in a phone booth with bean bags. It's like, you don't want either of those two extremes. You really want to have there be that perfect balance of, okay,
Sure.
the art's taking up this space and the balloons are taking up this space, and perfect. So I'm going for perfect here.
So, and well, I mean, you can control half of it, and the artist you're
I
working
can
with,
control part of it. There's
right,
there's only so
right.
much I can do. Um,
The artist you're working with, Andrea Baccardo, correct? That's his name.
I've never spoken with him in terms of actual talking, so I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
he pronounces his name, but I'm just gonna go with okay.
Sure, yeah, yeah. I'm not familiar with his work, but when you started to see pages come back, did that? I've talked to a lot of artists, obviously, on this program. Did it start to shape the story a little bit more, or did you write it completely before you even started to see his art come back?
Well, I'm like I said, I am doing it Marvel style, so I was
Oh
giving
yeah.
him a plot. So
Mm-hmm.
when the art starts coming in, then you can go, oh, okay, now he left me so much room, and I can do this here, and I can do that there, and it's kind of it can be a challenging approach to doing comics, but yeah, I enjoy the process of it
Yeah.
quite a bit. But there's a lot of things where your brain is like, oh man, I was expecting this and I got that. What do I what do I do here? And it's always a little weird when you've got situations where there isn't necessarily a great space for balloons to be sitting,
Mm-hmm.
So, but you just do the best you can. I
Um,
always do balloon placement on everything that I do, so that letters. can be like, oh, okay, that's what he's got in mind. I get it.
And like you said, this is, the first time in a while you're working with somebody that's not you, because
Yeah,
generally you're,
and this is the first time he's worked from a plot, so it's kind of a bit of a learning curve for both of us to some extent.
and speaking of the plot, without any, spoilers or anything, but can you give me just a little bit of, how get me excited? What's the story
Well,
about?
mostly what it came is from me reading the other stuff and going, everybody who's been on this is kind of doing, here's the film noir version of Doctor Octopus, and here's the
Yeah.
film noir version of the Vulture, and I kind of my goal coming on here was, let's just give him his own villains and just make up as much new stuff as we can possibly cram into 5 issues. So
Hmm.
there are there are a bunch of new villains that are in this, and it's just, let's just do as much as we can in as short a period as we can. There's a lot of new supporting characters and new situations and then new villains all over the place. But also at the same time, it's like, all right, well, you guys haven't done Gwen Stacy yet, so let's pull Gwen Stacy in here and do something with her and Captain Stacy. And so it's like, all right, it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then just tell some kick-ass film noir-esque type story and see how it goes.
All right.
But not,
So,
Nazis appear. He likes to fight Nazis, so there's a lot of Nazi fighting.
and we should always be punching them and doing,
Punching
whatever we
Nazis.
can,
How
whatever
can you
we
not?
can. um, so film noir is I don't think there's been too much of it, in at least in movie form, in the last, 10, 15, 20 years. Like Brick comes to mind, the Ryan Johnson movie. Um, but what are your influences in film noir? Like, I know you're a big movie guy.
I mean, I would my brain is not going, oh, it's
Sure.
this, but you think of all the Humphrey Bogart
Hmm.
movies, and you think of the Thin Man series, and then certainly Citizen Kane has a lot of that. But in terms of the dialogue driven part of it, it's much more Thin Man than Citizen Kane.
Right. Yeah. No Rosebud. No Rosebud.
No, there's no Rosebud. Which is
Yeah, I was raised on and my dad is a huge Bogart fan. Like there was a Maltese Falcon statue replica in our TV room since I was a
oh,
child.
nice,
So,
nice.
an African Queen poster and, Casablanca poster. So
Oh yeah,
it's something I grew up around.
yeah. No, that's cool. The tough part of just writing this stuff in general is just wrapping your brain around 1939 and
Yeah.
just going. You write a phrase and it's like, wait a minute, would they say that in 1939? I got to look up every time anybody opens their mouth. Oh, that phrase is from the 80s. Like, like, you know, but it helps that there's a bunch of old radio shows that I used to
Yeah.
listen to that are just in and around that time, and then I've got all these Jack Kirby crime things and other
Oh, that's
comic
right.
company crime comics from the time, and then all these collections of classic comic strips that are like, hey, this is from the 30s, so all your Gasoline Alley isms will those all
Mm.
work. There's stuff to go through and find and sometimes work in.
I've I feel like no matter what series you're working on, whether it's Spider-Man Noir or Savage Dragon, you actually do a lot of research and fact checking. I mean, we talked about it, how, sometimes you're writing something in Dragon and you're like, wait, I got to check what happened with that character 70 issues ago.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's inevitably stuff that that you get wrong or that just doesn't work. And it's like there was a actual Nazi rally that was in Madison Square Garden
Yeah.
in New York, So it's like I wanted to use that thing, and then I'm like, wait a minute, what date is what actual date was that? It's like, oh crap, that was in February, but I've got all these references to Wizard of Oz, which didn't come out until whatever April, May, whatever.
Right.
So it's like, what do I do here? How do I? So it's not going to be the actual date of the actual
Sure.
Nazi rally or whatever.
I mean,
But do the best you can. I mean, in the real world, there wasn't a guy spinning webs and swinging around town either. So
no, and
these
I
are
wish there was. We might be in a better place if there was. So, or it might just be one more nutcase in the United States.
yeah. I was like, what's going on here? Anyway, yeah, it's kind of it's definitely a fun thing to mess around with, in kind of all respects. Where
Hmm.
uh, you, there's things you got to research all over the place and things,
Yeah.
but I mean, some people are going, "Hey, how come you're not drawing it?" It's like, good God, man, I
How much can
I
you
don't.
do?
Well, I couldn't. I think that was one where I don't think I would be capable of it, unless
Yeah.
I really just threw myself into it and spent a ton of time. But even doing the few covers that I'm doing, it's like, oh, you got to look up this gun and what this person is wearing, what
Hmm.
that person is wearing, and then every car and every prop and everything you just having to look up and going, and wait, how big is that car and compared to a human? And like, oh, good lord.
And you also don't want, I mean, I think that's probably another thing too, is like you want to draw what you want to draw. It's a little bit easier to let somebody else do the things that you don't want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
draw, you know?
Well,
Um,
that's true too. Is you can just kind of go, hey, since I'm not drawing this, here come the horses, or whatever, whatever you can't draw. It's like, hey, we're gonna have a car race here. It's like, good
did
luck,
you,
buddy.
did you do variant covers for every issue? Can we expect a cover of yours for each issue?
Uh, yeah, I'm doing covers. I think I'm doing. I've at least started covers for all of them. So
Mm. Oh, you know,
hopefully I'll get them done in time and
well,
sort it
that
out.
first cover you showed
At
off.
this point I've plotted all the issues, and scripted much of it. Uh, with everything that's been drawn has been scripted at this point, so
Awesome.
it's coming along.
Well, it sounds like you had fun doing it, and I honestly, I think you'll agree with most comics that you read. You can tell when the creator's having fun, and it kind of encourages the reader, maybe subliminally, to have more fun while reading it.
Yeah, well, hopefully,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
the hopes.
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
it's always something. You don't want to do with this in particular. You don't want to do so much research on something that you feel like, oh, I've got to do some information dump on all this stuff, and and because a lot of times I'm seeing other things that people have set in periods, and it's like people don't talk like that. They're not giving you all the background on the World's Fair and how that came together. It's just that the writer did his research and he wants to show off that he did his research. So,
right, right. Uh, yeah, and exposition. I don't know. I think like you think about things like Bond villains, right? They give away everything, and it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
nobody talks like that.
No,
Nobody
nobody
does.
talks. No.
You know,
But
first I'm going to tie this
it's
chair.
it's a high wire act because it's like at one point you're like, well, there's a certain amount of information that needs to be conveyed to
Hmm.
the reader to understand just what the hell's going on. And the other part of that is, yeah, but I don't want this to come off as so. clunky and unnatural that it sounds like something that nobody would ever say.
Right,
So it's
right.
just finding that can be a challenge.
And I know, speaking of challenges, I know you just posted in the Savage Dragon fan group, like you resolicited the next Savage Dragon issue. I'm assuming it was just getting too dicey trying to get everything done at once.
I, yeah, I mean, there was occasions where I mean, you hate to say it, but you just go, I just need a break.
Yeah, you
it's just
should.
it's just too much of this all. It's like I've been going at this for 33 years at this point. This one
Yeah.
book. Can I just get a couple months to get ahead of steam here so that I'm not so hand to mouth? So
Hmm.
that
Well,
was the thought.
you've done such a great job getting that book out, and it's been going for so long. Like, I think everybody understands you're just a human being and you do need a break.
Yeah, occasionally.
And I did want to ask, because the last time we talked, and like I've jumped back in, I want to also just say how much fun it is to be reading Savage Dragon, and I jumped back in after not, reading it in continuity, how easy it is to just kind of pick up an issue and get into it. And that was like 12 or 15 issues ago I jumped back in. And
Well, that's
y-
kind of what I wanted to do with the book, is have it be that kind of approach. I liken it to meeting a new human being in your real life,
mhm,
where when you meet somebody, you don't get their entire backstory. You don't know everything about them and how how all the pieces fit together. But they'll sure tell you when you need to know.
yeah.
Because things will come up and be like, let's cross
Mhm.
the street. I don't want to talk to that guy. It's like, okay, well, what's going on there?
Right,
Oh,
what's the
a big
backstory? Yeah.
blowout, and it's like, okay, so let's just do comics like that when you need to know that these guys have appeared before and that they've got a beef with each other. We can have that stuff spill out then, but if we don't need to know that, there's just keep on trucking. I think
Yeah,
it can be a little disconcerting if you're a guy who read the book 30 years ago
sure.
to just pick up the next issue and go, there's nobody here I recognize. What's what's going on? When did dragons start looking like this? Um,
Right. And why are there little dragons running around?
why
And,
are there little dragons and her dragon looks weird?
it wouldn't take too long. It wouldn't take too long to figure it out. I mean, sure, if you read the first three issues or the first five issues and it was just a guy trying to figure out who he was and how he got there, which is kind of, how it was at
Yeah,
the beginning. But I don't know. It's very, it makes me happy to see that you have stood and withstood the test of time of comics going from single issues to literally just writing for the trade paperback,
yeah.
and this whole time. And, I know we've talked about it at length about your love for old cartoon strips, but that love, you're great at telling short stories too.
Well, thanks,
you
man.
know yeah, I mean, I get, a lot of my community and my friends, we talk about how we talked about how you guys had to destroy those kung fu bible stories, like, and it's right above my head here on the shelf, but it's just
Yeah,
like I miss being able to jump into something, read it, get in, get out, and feel like I'm satisfied.
yeah. That is true, and it
you
feels
know
too much like everything is part of some big sprawling something, and I've been that guy who's just sitting there reading, going, I don't know what the hell's going on here. I'm so completely lost. Could somebody
yeah.
just give me a little refresher course on who all these guys are and why they're mad at each other? Um,
Or why they're on this team and they used to be on this
it-
team.
yeah, well, it's like just some of the stuff. It's like, how come this guy's alive? I remember that person being dead. What's going on here?
I mean, and they're
But
and
you
at
know,
this.
you can't just, you know, Spider Woman is back and she had lost her powers or whatever went on with
Mhm.
Spider Woman, and they can't just be reminding you every month. Okay, here's what happened
Yeah,
with Spider Woman. This is the
yeah.
story here, because it becomes unwieldy. Um,
Hmm.
but
And
I
it,
know
it it
for me
it
as a
insults the
regular
audience.
guy reading stuff, I'm like, what the hell's up with Spider Woman? Why is she here and why is she alive? I don't understand, you know,
Yeah,
or whatever, you know. Uh, Captain Marvel had his powers, and then it's like, oh my god, I can't keep
right.
track of all this stuff. What's going on?
I mean, I think that's also, well, I think it's also a big two problem. You know, Image doesn't never really has that problem because it's either series like you know, writing, drawing, you know, or Kirkman doing, you know, Walking Dead from writing it with, you know,
Yeah.
Adlard or Otley, you know, with Invincible. I think it's a big two
Well,
problem.
it helps a lot that you've got one person, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, I think even if you took something like Spider-Man Noir and be like, I'm going to sit down and read this from the first issue to the last issue that I do, it's going to be a mess because
Sure.
everybody's coming on there going, well, this is my vision, and my vision is different from the other guy's visions. You know, by the time I got a hold of it, it's like we had already seen like four or five different visions of you know different people having completely different takes on it and a different approach. You know,
Hmm.
and then I've got some people saying, "Hey, I really like the first Spider-Man Noir series. Are you going to do something like that?"
Yeah.
And I've got to just go. If they wanted that, they should have hired that guy. They hired me, so you're gonna get this. So I hope you like it, but
Yeah.
it's pretty different from what you've read before.
Well, from my experience, the only consumption of Spider-Man Noir I have is Nick Cage in the Spider-Verse movie. So this is going to be the first
It's
series
more
that
like
I've
that.
read.
It's more like
Yeah.
that than some of the other stuff. But mostly, I wanted it. I wanted Peter Parker to feel like Peter Parker.
Hmm.
So when you read it, you weren't sitting there going, "Who the hell is this guy? And what? How come he's talking in this weird way and acting in this strange way?" That you can go, no, he still kind of has that same kind of rhythm that Peter Parker has, and when he's talking to Aunt May, there's still kind of a playfulness that these two characters have bouncing off one another, and
It's just
it's just
playfulness in the
you know there's
30s.
this kind of a bunch of little goals that I come in there going, okay, I want this to feel more somewhat like this old noir stuff that I love. I want it
Hmm.
also to feel like it's set in 1939. At the same time, I want this to feel like it's Spider-Man, you know, that you're
Sure.
just going, yeah, this is kind of what Spider-Man's like. So, you know, if he's fighting somebody, there's going to be a lot of, you know, patter back and forth with the villains and stuff like that. If, you know,
As he
whatever.
usually does. Yeah, yeah, as we're used to. Um, Going back to Dragon, I had a question. This just could be my experience with kind of talking to friends and community members about it. But in the last year, I mean, you hit 275 earlier this year, which congratulations on that. Or, you know, you're working towards the 300, which you know
Yeah,
you'll get and
I'll
beyond.
get there. It's just,
Yeah. Hey, no, we've
uh,
waited. We've been here for 30 plus years on it, so we can wait a little bit, you know. But
okay,
what I wanted to ask, have you seen a bump in the print run and the demand for the book over the last year, more so over the last five? It just feels like there's more people reading it and talking about it than there was maybe, you know, even 2, 3, 4 years ago. Or
yeah,
is it
there
just,
seems to be something to that. Um,
yeah,
and I don't know why. I don't know why. But there are certain issues that you go on to eBay, and it's like, wow, that one's you can't buy issue 233 for anything less than $100. What's going
yeah,
on here? Um, and I don't know why, but there are seem to be a bunch of issues that people can't get their hands on, and they're and it's really doesn't seem like there's a rhyme or reason in I'm looking at other comics going, okay, well, this is the first appearance of Deathlock. This makes sense in, Marvel comics, or this is the first appearance of some character that's ended up being in a movie. In my case, it's like, this isn't really the first appearance of anybody. I don't understand why is this.
I mean, I
I'll take
know
it.
I can, yeah, I can tell you some of the reasons is, look, as collectors, you're one, I'm one. As
Mhm.
collectors, completion, being a
Yeah,
completionist
yeah,
is a
yeah.
huge thing. And because during the 2000s, like let's say 2005 through 2017, the print runs just kind of kept going down.
Yeah.
And now people are going back and they want to finish their runs, but there's not enough supply to meet
Yeah,
the
there's some
demand.
issues that are they're missing. I think also the pandemic actually comic sales, at least for us,
They
really
went
went
up.
up because there was a
Yeah.
lot of people just going, I'm not getting out, I'm not seeing the world. I had this old hobby that I really enjoyed for years and
Hmm.
years. Maybe I'll get back into reading some of that stuff.
I mean,
So,
if it wasn't for the
so do you.
pandemic, I wouldn't have this show right now. And I sell comics. Like that's my job. And it's because I was like, yeah, I've been involved in this thing for so long and now I have this time to really dig into it to a level that I never had. But some of those, yeah, and I wonder, did you see also a bump in like current print run when the Mickey Mouse issue hit? Because I feel like that also sparked people into being like, oh, what's he doing now?
I'm going to be honest. I don't really pay that much attention to those numbers at all. I'm
Yeah.
just my end of it is I continue? Oh, all right. We're good. We're good. I'll make some more if we can continue. If
Yeah. Yeah.
numbers are such that we can't continue, make sure to let me know so I can just, stop doing this nonsense. But as long as we can keep going, I want to keep doing that. I don't really track um, how much back issues are going for.
Right.
Occasionally, when I'm going to a convention, I'll have somebody go, "Can you bring me issue 245? I can't find it anywhere." I'm like, all right, well, let's see if I can scrape one of those up and bring it along. Uh,
Well, I mean, technically, wouldn't you be the only person to end Savage Dragon, considering you founded Image Comics? Like, can they really tell you, like, oh, we can't do this anymore?
um, well, there will get to be a point where the
Sure.
numbers just don't add up.
Hmm.
Where I'm not going to sit here and go, oh boy, I got to pay a colorist, I got to pay a letterer, and I'm getting nothing for all of my
Mm,
efforts, and I got to fork out some money to Image in order to keep this
okay.
book going, and it's like, all right, at a certain point, come on, what are you doing
Right.
here?
Where like the the headline becomes Image founder still wants vanity project even though it's not making money or
Yeah,
something like
it's
that.
like, what are you doing here? And my wife's always giving me how many issues came out this year, and are you going to keep doing this? And it's like, oh, sorry,
Well,
honey.
we're all, I mean, look, I can speak for at least the people that are, we talk about your work a lot and we're rooting for you to keep this going for, as long as you want.
I,
So,
I want to do that.
yeah. Well, that means everybody's got to buy Savage Dragon and yeah, and Spider-Man Noir, because if Spider-Man Noir sells well, then people will be like,
That
"Wait,
helps
I
too. Well,
I want to go."
I mean, I kind of took this break because I felt like, all right, let me get a head of steam on this dragon stuff, so I'm
Mhm.
not so hand to mouth on it. I'm going to take this break at a time when I've got this other stuff that's at least I've got something that's coming out.
Sure.
So Spider-Man Noir is going to be the next 5 months, and then there's that Venom thing, and I've been doing a bunch of little covers here and there, and occasionally I'm asked to do other weird stuff, and I can't say yes to everything.
Sure.
but,
Sure.
but I have
Yeah.
said yes to more than I should have.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's hard. I'm sure it's hard when, right, when you're just like, yeah, I'll do that because like you enjoy doing it. I don't think you would say yes to something. And unless I'm wrong, I don't think you would say yes to something you had no interest in doing. Maybe you would.
No, I was. I mean, Spider-Man Noir was definitely a weird one because
Hmm.
at that point I hadn't read any of the back matter. But then I did read. I did read all of it. But it was definitely like, okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I
It's,
kind of took it on because I just liked the. I got a local comic book store guy who really dislikes what's been going on in Spider-Man. He's just been like super vocal every time I go in there, and he's always like, "Why don't you take over Spider-Man?" It's like, well, that's not how that works. It's not how that you don't just storm in there and say, "That's mine. Get those
yeah.
bums."
Yeah.
But like one of the reasons I wanted to do it was so that I could have this conversation with him, and that is to go in there and be like, "Well, I got a call from Marvel, and I'm doing Spider-Man again." And he's like, "Oh my god, that's awesome!" And it's like, I'm just writing Spider-Man."
Yeah.
Like,
And it's just
oh, okay.
Spider-Man Noir, but it's,
And then it's like, well, it's just Spider-Man Noir. And he's just like so deflated. I
oh,
was like, oh man,
wow.
that was worth it.
I mean, can honestly say I haven't read a Spider-Man book in a while because it's not because I don't like what they're doing with the character. It's just, once again, it's hard to want to jump on to this train that I jumped off of a long time ago, you know?
It's
And I,
really different. It's really, really different now. And
yeah.
it's like, um, I mean, they're certainly doing stuff in the book that I wouldn't be doing if I were doing the book. Like,
Mhm.
hey, Spider-Man's in space and he's fighting aliens and he's not on Earth for a while. And it's like, yeah, that's not what I'd be doing.
Right. I mean,
So I
the
can see
last,
why my local comics store guy is just losing his mind over it.
I think the last Spider-Man book I read was even a miniseries. It was Zdarsky and Bagley doing Life Story, which I really enjoyed the hell out of that. But that was almost, it was like 8 years ago. So,
That's a long.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Speaking
what's the
of,
last time what I did? I did a Spider-Man. I can never remember the name of that. Was it Big Time?
oh
Spider-Man
yeah,
Big.
yeah, I think it was Big Time.
I always want to call it Big something, but I don't know what. Anyway, yeah, that was kind of a fun little thing to work on. I,
You
I
know,
like that stuff. Just
sure.
you got 10 pages. Do what you can. Go. And trying to find some way to shove in as much of a story as you can in the smallest possible space. And it's like, all right, I can do this. I
Well,
can do this.
they just put to the test. I don't know how often you go to your local comic store, but Batman Deadpool came out last week, and the main story is like 20 something pages, but then it's
Yeah,
a bunch of short stories, and I think some of those short stories were far better than the actual Batman Deadpool. But um you know I think if you can get in and get out in, like you said, X amount of pages, um that's really like that can really make you sharpen your skills, I would imagine, right?
yeah. Well, you've got to be able to make it work in that really really small little thing. But then you think, you know what? These people have been doing comics for a long time, and there are an awful
Hmm.
lot of people who have managed to make all this stuff work at various points during this, you know, so you can look back and go, okay, well, all these EC comics somehow managed to tell a complete story in less than 10 pages.
Yeah.
You know, how the hell did they manage to do it? And you know, all of those classic uh, golden age stuff, most of those stories
Yeah.
are really short.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and that's a whole different thing. You know, every hostess story is of course one page long.
That's right. I mean,
You know,
look,
it's like somehow you've introduced a problem and you've had the conflict and you resolved it in one page again and
and
again. How's this happened?
even you got a taste of that very early on in your career with a one pager and Frisky Frolics. You know, I
There you
mean,
go. There's the
yeah,
book.
that's a deep. I mean, well, you're the one who kind of turned me on to looking for the Renegade Press stuff because that's Robin Snyder. I wanted to ask, and I don't know if anybody's ever. Did you ever have any interaction with Ditko? Being that you and Snyder, he was publishing some of your stuff and he was publishing Ditko.
I met Ditko at the Marvel offices, and
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have much of a conversation.
Hey,
It's like,
I can
hey, we
imagine.
got a mutual friend in Robin Snyder. And it was like, oh, okay. And I was like, all right. I got to meet Steve Ditko. That was cool. Um,
Well, hey, that adds
I mean,
to the lore
a
because
lot of my encounters with my favorite guys were basically that. It's like, oh, I met Jack Kirby and we exchanged a couple sentences and then moved on.
yeah,
So
yeah. But I mean, the Ditko. I mean, Kirby, right? Kirby's a. We look at he's almost. They're both mythological figures in a way, right?
yeah,
Kirby's got these tall tales of, tales, real tales of killing Nazis and doing this and that, and then
yeah,
everybody's tales of Ditko are like, I went to his apartment, I knocked on his door, he told me to get the hell out of here, or whatever it was.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
so
some of them are like people they let inside. He had a good conversation, and then they're like, "Hey, can we take a selfie?" And Dick goes like, "Hit the road."
yeah, get the fuck
Like,
out of here. I mean, I think that's I imagine you can relate to the fact that like when you look back at some of these people, I mean even Stan Lee and you look back at like a guy like Bill Gaines or something, like the comics, the people that created the comics at the time where there wasn't a lot of information do turn out to be kind of characters themselves because it's a lot of telephone, or it's a lot of like Stan Lee would talk in kind of the way he wrote, like in interviews, you'd see him and you'd be like, well, true believer.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the whole Marvel method there when he was there, that was an entirely different kind of thing than what it
Jim
evolved
Shooter.
into. But when he would have conversations with artists, and
Mm-hmm.
then they would go off and write the stories and write the information in the margins of the pages, and then Stan would come in and write the dialogue afterward.
Right.
But depending on the artist he was working with, he would have varying degrees of input. So in some cases with Jack Kirby, it would be nothing. You know,
Yeah.
it's like there's
Yeah.
nothing at
Because what
all.
are you going to
You know,
say?
Stan might say, "Hey, let's have him fight Doctor Doom this issue," or he might not. You know, maybe Jack told him what's going to go
Yeah.
on. And there's runs on that book where you can kind of look at it and go, "I'll bet all of these are Jack plots." Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then other ones like, okay, this is a Stan plot because he did the same plot in Daredevil and Spider-Man, and he just,
Yeah.
hey, look at that, it's a mix-up where Spider-Man goes bad, and then you read Captain America, and look, Captain America's gone bad. He's Captain America swapped brains uh, with the Red Skull at one point.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Daredevil swapped brains with Doctor Doom, and then Reed
Yeah.
swapped brains with it's like
Or when Doctor Doom steals the Surfer's powers, like those. But
yeah,
that's a great issue, though.
yeah. No, there's definitely some good stuff in there, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of kind of repetition of this is a kind of plot that is an idea that's going to be used in all over
Mm-hmm.
the place. You know, how many stories did the Thing go nuts, and then the rest of the FF had to stop him?
Stop
Like
him. Yeah. Yeah.
he went bad like 5 or 6 times during Stan's tenure on the book, and
Oh,
including
definitely.
a time when Jack had left. So
Yeah. Well, it took a while for this stuff to evolve a little bit, you know?
yeah,
It
it
did.
got
But
there.
yeah, it got there. I think there was also, you look at, you mentioned EC. I mean, a- so many ideas came out of that probably just nobody even realizes down the line, like how many of those stories inspired so many other stories, because, a lot of that stuff is written by Bradbury and, guys who were coming up with these new ideas that really hadn't seen
Yeah.
print. So, I wanted to ask you a question about. So I had after the last time you were on, I had Bagley on, and we chatted for about an hour and a half, and he told a story about he it was when you got Spider-Man and he was in San Diego and he confronted you at a party. He was, he admits that he's a firecracker, an army brat, and I wanted to get your recollection
I,
of that
he
story.
has told me this story, and
Yeah.
I have no memory whatsoever of it. This was this was clearly a big event in his life, and he had it built up in his head that
Yeah.
that because he was going. I, it's like he wanted to be getting regular
Hmm.
work, and he won the when Marvel had that Marvel tryout contest.
Yeah.
Uh, you remember that thing? And there was
Yeah. The
that
book. Yeah.
encounter meter thing, and everybody was supposed to learn how to draw the Marvel way and follow those instructions. He came out of there as he wanted.
Yeah.
Um, and a bunch of other people got like, "Hey, you're a runner-up," or whatever. I got one that
And
was like, "Hey,
you.
you're a runner-up," and I just like I didn't even enter this thing. I didn't draw the story at all. I just had sent in samples. So okay, cool. Um, but eventually, I was getting somewhat regular work. I had done stuff someplace,
Yeah.
and so I was getting some work, and I don't think he was on a regular book yet, but he was hungry, and I was
Yeah.
just going, "Look, man, let me help you through this." You know,
Yeah.
looking at these pages and going, "You got a bunch of tiny little panels here with a bunch of tiny little figures here. You got to open this stuff up. There's got to be, because people when they buy comics, they flip through it,
Yeah.
to see like if I'm going to buy this book or not. And if there's a bunch of cool stuff that's catching their eye, they're more likely to buy a comic than if you flip through it and it's a stamp collection and there's a bunch of tiny
Hmm.
little things going on. You need to get some bigger figures that are anchoring those pages, and not only that, they're gonna it'll down the road you'll be able to sell those pages for more commission.
Yeah.
But it's not about that. It's about giving readers that good flip when you're flipping through it and going, "Oh, look at that moment. Oh, look at that one.
Hmm.
Oh, that's cool." Um, and he wasn't giving a lot of that, and so apparently that really pissed him off, and I
It,
had no idea. He was like I was seething with rage.
yeah, that's what he said to me.
All right, well, you didn't,
But
so that's cool.
right. And the way he concluded it, when he was recounting this to me, is that when he got home, he sat and he thought about it and he's like, "Oh, he's right." So, it worked out. Look, it really worked out for both of you. I mean, you didn't
Yeah,
have to fight Mark Bagley, and that would have been weird. And he ends
no,
up
it would have been
being,
super weird because he's like
yeah,
way taller than me, but
I know.
probably way tougher than me. So it'd just be like that Yoda battle with.
Yeah, 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 with Dooku or with Palpatine.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like,
but and he goes on to do Spider-Man after you, and at this point he's done more Spider-Man books than anybody alive, or anybody of all time. Like, if we take the Ramita strips out of it, he's done
yeah,
more issues of any of all Spider-Man together, which that's I mean,
that
I
could
t-
be. Yeah, I mean, I would think John Romita Jr. just because he keeps coming back again and again and
that's
again is
true at this point.
probably
Yeah.
getting there, or will eventually get there.
Yeah.
Is has Mark retired, or where's he at this point? Do you have any
He
idea?
he's he said he was retired with the exception of doing some covers here and there, but he did tell me that he was retired from interiors.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, hey, I don't know.
whatever, man.
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
it. I get it.
I'm I mean, to me, people my age in our 40s, I'm lucky because we got this succession of the tail end of Ramita Jr., but into Todd, into you, and into Bagley, getting just this amazing breadth of you guys doing, Marvel's flagship character. So,
Yeah.
I'm just glad I got to see that. And yes, I am a balding man with a gray beard, but I do not have a child. I do not have a
That is,
child.
no, it's just disconcerting when you got some
Yeah.
people coming up to you just going, "Oh, I've read your stuff since I was a kid." You're going, "Crap."
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
look that
Well, I
old. How
mean,
old do I look?
it makes me feel funny because, like, if I have somebody listening to my podcast or whatever, it's like a 20-year-old person that's hearing about these artists for the first time, and I'm like, this has never left my mind, like these names and the art and the pages and the like, I still think about the pinup on my shirt as like something I saw yesterday,
Yeah,
and that was 30 years ago.
yeah, that was a long time ago. That's like
um
35 years ago.
yeah, jeez. So I wanted to let the audience know you're doing a signing. This will be out before the signing, but you're doing a signing at Mission Comics the day that Noir 1 comes out, right?
Yes, that is
And
correct.
that's in the Mission District, I'm assuming, in San Francisco.
Yeah, that is in the Mission District in San Francisco. Um,
So you could get a burrito and a comic.
that's why I do it.
Yeah. What's your favorite go-to spot for food down
Well,
there?
I'm big on. There's a place called El Farolito, which is at Mission and 24th.
Hmm.
So that's my go-to. But
Okay.
there's a bunch of other ones on there
Oh
that
yeah.
I end up going to because other people want to go to the other ones. It's like, oh, all right, but you
Yeah,
know it
you've
makes
got
me
your
happy when
spot,
I
but
really want it.
I prefer I really like Pancho Villa's Taqueria down there. That place is amazing. But you can't go wrong in the Mission at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all good.
Yeah. And then also, you're going to be at New York Comic Con again this year, as
I
you
will be
usually
at New
are?
York Comic Con, and I will be at San Francisco Fan Expo. I guess the
Okay.
uh, Thanksgiving weekend is when that
Happens.
occurs.
Yeah.
But
Well, that
that's a
that that
local
one's easy
show.
for you.
Yeah, that one's super easy. I can sleep in my own bed, the whole bit.
I did want to, and maybe this is something we could do at a later date, but I did want to just give a shout out to the fact that this came out last year. And Eric, let me tell you something. And
Yeah.
I looked at your artwork in a completely different way, seeing the Savage Dragon artist edition, because I don't think, and it's something I shared very recently with Jim Rugg and Jim Mafood. We were all hanging out talking about this, and I didn't realize how much ink and how much black you used on this book. I mean, it's amazing. For anybody that doesn't have this, you can still find this. This is the Vault edition for Savage Dragon. But I mean, and the spatter, the stuff you
Oh
were
yeah,
doing, the
yeah.
techniques
A
you
lot
were
of that,
doing.
and,
Yeah, and I
and,
just
and a lot more whiteout than there probably should have
yes.
been.
Yeah, there's even a couple panels where you redid the fin, and I know that's a point of your, it's kind of,
Yeah,
if you
no,
don't mind me saying,
it took me a while to figure that out. So
yeah. Well, what was it like? Because you don't own this artwork, and I know who does, and I don't want to say it because I don't want that person to get mad at me. But what was it? What was it like seeing that again after
I
the three
mean,
decades?
it's fine. I've got plenty of my own art. It's not like I'm sitting there going, oh, I don't have anything. I've got thousands and thousands of pages of art. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I think even with whatever I've sold as Savage Dragon, I probably have 5,000 pages of art.
Wow, that's incredible.
So it's like that's a fair amount.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was a treat that we got to see this because I'm a big fan of the artist edition. I'm a big art collector, as maybe you
Yeah.
remember. I own something that you probably would rather not be owned by
Oh my
somebody.
God. Wow. Yeah, that is cool. I haven't seen
Yeah,
that in probably the last time you showed me.
yeah, and that's a homage from what is it? Fantastic 457. I forget what issue this is from.
Something around there.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, kind of. Yeah, that was me, and I was, depending on when the date is on there, I was probably 19 years old.
August 1981. So
1981.
yeah. Um,
So,
but I love seeing that stuff. I
yeah,
love
18. God.
well, hey, look, you got two choices. You either age or you don't at all, and you don't live.
Yeah,
uh, but it's just I love seeing the original stuff, and I love being able to open up that book, that Savage Dragon Vault edition, and just pour over it because when I was a kid seeing this, and whatever I was, 14 years old, I didn't know what went into making a comic. Like I had no concept of what original art looked like and like
yeah,
and so it's just beautiful to see, and I hope that maybe we can get more artist editions from you at some point because there is a I mean, I know you had the fire but I know there's a lot of it out there even from the Marvel days, but you have so
yeah,
much of that Savage
yeah.
Dragon
Well,
stuff too.
because of the image started after the fire, so
Hmm.
uh, anything that I've done at Image is post that, and then
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, all my old Amazing Spider-Man stuff. I don't have anything from any of that, uh, but whatever.
But it's and it's out there. Collectors have it. Scott
Yeah, I
Dunbier
know
can
collectors
figure
have
it
it,
out.
and it's
Yeah,
like, oh, I always regretted selling this. But it's like, well, if you didn't sell it, it might not exist anymore. It's like,
that's
okay, oh,
that
I guess
I
it's
was
good.
going to say that. No, it's great. Um, and then so New York Comic Con, Mission Comics, Savage Dragon next issue will be out in January, but Spider-Man Noir comes out October 1st. And I don't know if you even heard about this, but news broke today that Image announced they're going to be giving a 27-day window to comic shops now before trade paperbacks and collections hit regular retail bookstores and bookstores, which I don't know if that's something that like you're ever involved in the decision making process of that, but I think that's Image seems to kind of be at the forefront of making smart choices for the comic book stores to keep them alive. Um,
I have no
so
idea about that. So
all right.
yeah,
It's news to you. And
yeah, that was my idea.
well, I mean, look, I know you're, well, once again, you know, you're a big comic person, not just a creator, but you love comics. And I know, comic stores have always been something that you talk about and, you have your local comic stores. I just think, especially with what's happened recently with Diamond and all that garbage, I think it's good that some of these
Yeah,
companies try and make moves to help the comic stores because without
yeah,
comic
yeah.
stores,
Oh no, no, absolutely. I
we're
mean,
going to
that's
lose
the
it.
way I prefer to consume comics. I've never been a digital guy. I've never bought a single digital anything. So, um, it's always the physical comics and the physical original art. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's for
Well,
me.
Yeah, yeah. And lastly, I think the only thing I wanted to ask is, there's a lot of you're very good at giving people space to do backups, to do, pinups in the back. Simon Malley at St. Pierre is somebody that you've had in Savage Dragon a bunch, and
Mhm.
we're friendly. But um, you know, how does that work? If somebody wanted to try and like, are you open to submissions of not just fan art, but like ideas for backups? How do you go about getting people for that?
I don't. It's very haphazard. Um, because most of the time most of the time it starts with an artist going,
Yeah,
I want to do a backup, and I'm going, okay, well, here's the deal. There's not You're not going to get paid for it, so
sure.
if you still want to do it, I mean, I have space. if you if if you need to get paid for it, I can't do
Right.
it. It's just the numbers don't make that work. So I can either run letters, pages, ads, or a backup story, and doing a backup story is a bigger headache than any of the other options.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
it just is, because it's like if I'm plotting it, I gotta plot a story. If somebody else is plotting it, I gotta. It just
Approve it. Yeah.
it's a nightmare. all
Sure.
of them,
Okay. I was
all of
I
them
was
are.
just I was just
But what
curious.
generally happens is people will be like, I want to do something, and they'll send me their art, and I'll either be like, yeah, that's cool, or yeah, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
But it's gone so many different ways. Sometimes people just send me a page out of the blue, just going, I wrote this page, I thought it was cool, and I'll be like,
Hmm.
awesome, I will run that. And other times it's people who really want to have never done a comic before, really want to do one, and I will talk them through it, and I'll write up a plot for them, and then they'll draw it, and then I'll script it and get it professionally lettered and professionally colored, and then their first ever something is there and in print, and I'll send them a pile of comics.
I mean, that's. I
So,
mean,
but
it's an
it's
important.
so haphazard, and sometimes I've got a bunch of them all stacked up, and other times I've got nothing sitting here, but the things seem to kind of materialize as I'm going along.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then it's like I can always scramble, and I've always got piles of stuff like, oh, I could be running developmental art or
Yeah.
whatever.
Or
Like, how do you
sketches
get
or something.
sketches, whatever? Because that's what I was doing when I was doing Ant. Would just
Hmm.
be, well, here's all the work that went into doing Ant. Let me show you my homework. Um, but because people weren't sitting there doing Ant pinups for me, so
Sure.
that's kind of how that worked. And then on Savage Dragon, it's just a whole different thing. A lot of people just want to be able to say, like, I contributed to an issue.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes I wrote a letter in, and people are like super excited. Like, I had a letter in issue, 263, and that was my first letter printed, and you answered me, and that was awesome. Could you sign it? Uh,
Yeah.
it's
I
like,
mean, that's.
okay, cool.
But the positive effect that has on somebody, the fact that you're open to it, that you do it when you can, and whatever you're telling people you're not getting paid, but the confidence building, especially in this industry, which it's a tough industry for people to get involved in. So I think I just
Well, a lot of times, people just they don't know how it works, and it's like
mm-hmm,
I just need to be able to start. I've never done anything before. What size am I drawing this at? How do I scan this? What
yeah,
It's just all the pieces of it, and it was like, let me walk you through this process, and at the end of it, you're going to see something in print that you'll go, look at that. I've done something in a professional comic, and it either looks pretty good or not so good.
Yeah, but
So,
it's a learning
but it's a
experience either
learning
way.
something, and it's like, it's great, and when I was starting off, I drew tons and tons and tons of pages that I never got paid a nickel for, and those were
Yeah.
just samples. And if Marvel or DC had said, "Hey, I noticed you drew 29 pages of Batman material. Can we publish one of those pages?" I'd have been like, "Okay."
Yeah, you would have jumped up and down at the, you would have been right there.
Awesome.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's like, what was I thinking?
Well,
It's like, yeah, it's like I drew a bunch of Batman stuff. I drew tons of Marvel samples of Fantastic Four, Incredible Hulk, and
mhm.
various things.
Who knows? The next person that sends one in that maybe, you print a pinup or just fan art or something, that just gives them the confidence to do it more and eventually
Well, yeah.
publish their
Well,
own or
some of the guys who've done stuff have gone on and suddenly they're doing Marvel DC stuff and they're off to the races. So
yeah.
sometimes you just need that. I've got something in print so I can show the next guy so that they
Mhm.
can go, oh, this guy actually does stuff. He's done a comic before. He knows the process of making a comic.
Yeah.
Um, and that's just a tremendous help, just to have that.
Yeah. And I just, wanted to kind of point that out, commend you and let people know that they're, like you don't have to break in by trying to send letters to Marvel or Spider-Man or DC with Batman. You can, fan art and fandom and fan art is kind of the way that comics grew and started. I talk about it a lot here. Um,
Well,
I had
a lot of comics, if you look through them and you get, look through the letters pages, you'll find all sorts of familiar names.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
before Todd McFarlane broke in, he was a he was a letter hack, and he wrote
Yes,
to everybody, and
he
he
did.
mostly was writing to all of the books that didn't get much mail. And so
Yeah, like
he had letters
Warlord.
printed a lot, and House
Yeah.
of Mystery and all these other things. And he was like this godsend because it's like, oh, this guy's sending in stuff. And Todd's just going, I want them to be, I just want these guys to be familiar with my name so that, when I send in my book, they'll give me my break. It's just like,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's the scheme too, because it's like if somebody's been sending me letters forever and suddenly I'm seeing samples from them, I'm much more likely to respond to that than if I've never heard of them before.
I mean, these days it's even more, I think, you see it a lot on the internet, people commenting, or people in the Savage Dragon group, and then you start to see, their art or whatever. Like it's kind of the same idea. But yeah, Todd had Comics Journal printed his first fan art. Rob was in Boris the Bear, I believe. Um, Jim Lee
He's
was in
also in Megaton too.
Megaton as
Uh,
well. And Megaton is, that, I mean, he did, that was a stepping stone for a lot of few guys.
yeah, yeah, a lot of guys just kind of got their early break. I think I may have published the first J. Scott Campbell thing in the letters page of
Yeah,
Savage Dragon,
that may be.
or at least there was some. He might have had it in something else too, but he had a couple of things pretty early on there.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's an
hey, it's all
industry.
start.
Yeah, I mean, look, San Diego Comic Con is a fan started convention, and obviously, it's a completely different world these days. But
Yeah,
it started somewhere. Same with the New York show. I think the first art show was fan started, which turned into New York. Has the roots of New York Comic Con today.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so, but
Everybody's got to
well,
start
look,
somewhere.
I appreciate your time as always. I can't wait to read Spider-Man Noir #1. Comes out October 1st. Mission Comics if you're in the Bay Area. Go say hello to Erik. Get the signature on the book, or if you're in New York, it's one
I'll
of the
be
very
there.
few places. Yeah, and you do typically take commissions there, right? When you have the
Yeah.
time to do so.
Yep.
And look, keep your eye open. Hopefully he'll be doing it. There's a friend of mine who is taking around the Marvel tryout book and having a different artist ink one panel. And I think you're at the top. Like he wants to go to New York. Hopefully he'll be there. He would love to get you to ink a panel. When you see it, you're going to enjoy
I mean, I could
seeing
do
it.
it. I mean, I never have the proper tools at conventions that I have at home.
Yeah.
But
Well, but
it's like
you'll
I'm not bringing along ink that I'm dipping with a
right,
pen of
right.
red.
I'll tell you this though, when you see some of the stuff that people have already done in it, you're gonna laugh because people took liberties and changed some of the panels. It's really funny. So,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
uh,
That's always fun.
yeah. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. It's like I said, it's always a treat to have Erik on. He'll be at Mission Comics October 1st signing copies of Spider-Man Noir #1, which comes out that day. You can catch him at New York Comic Con in October, as well as Fan Expo San Francisco at the end of November. And if you haven't listened to my previous chats with him, if you're on YouTube, they'll be in the description below. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple or Amazon, you can just scroll and find it or type in Erik Larsen Direct Edition. For my part, I love to see you join the Patreon. It's $5 a month, and it's a community of great people. Every month you get a extra episode of Direct Edition, a bonus episode of West Coast Avengers, and whatever else I feel like throwing at you, as well as every 2 months a private sale exclusive to the Patreon of comics, magazines, rare, sold out, trade paperbacks, hardcovers, the stuff that I sell. And if you don't feel like joining the Patreon, completely understandable. If I could ask you to hit the like button and subscribe if you're not, I welcome you to leave comments below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you read this issue of Venom or if you plan on buying Spider-Man Noir. And if you haven't reviewed the podcast, you could do so on Apple or Amazon. You can also leave comments on Spotify, as well as Apple. You can review it on Spotify. Basically, any engagement with you helps this podcast get out to new people. And that's really all I need is just more and more people to listen. And then I get you into the cult of Dave. And then we're happy. All right, I'll see you next week on Direct Edition. Hello, friends. It's your pal Dave, and I want to introduce to you my brand new Patreon, West Coast Avengers and Direct Edition, all under one umbrella. You can now support me by joining the Patreon for $5 a month, and what you're going to get is me wearing this shirt and nothing else. I'm just kidding. You're going to get at least one bonus episode of West Coast Avengers and one bonus episode of Direct Edition per month. As well, I'm going to let you vote on the content of another West Coast Avengers video where I flip through a rare book or a rare magazine or something that you've never seen before, and you get to participate in what book it is. As well, every 2 months, I'm going to do a private sale right here, Patreon exclusive, and you're going to have first access to buying it well before it goes live on West Coast Wednesday, my comic book claim sale. So that's a little exclusivity for you. So plop down $5 a month. It's not that much to ask, is it? I'm waiting. No, it's not. For $5 a month, you can help support and grow this community while we do some great things together. West Coast Avengers and Direct Edition. Fucking hell, let me do that one more part over again. Yeah, that's right.